So, Alex, let's rewind all the way back to 2007. You played in an event, 6 max, $5,000 entry, made it to the final table, made it down to heads up, and unfortunately at the time, you didn't capture the bracelet. You came in second.
Such a painful memory.
Painful, 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 as any poker player could imagine. I mean, amazing to make second, right? And people want to congratulate you, but like, wherever you get knocked out, it's horrible, but it can't be much worse than second, even though it's great, but it's like horrible, right?
It's the worst. It was so heartbreaking. I had half the chips in play with, I think, 8, 9 players left. So I was playing well. I was having a great summer. I had a control of the table. I felt it was mine to take, and it just got snatched away from me.
So let me ask you, you know, you have half the chips in play. There's 9 people left. You know, you feel like you've got it. You get down to heads up. It doesn't work out. A lot of players might feel like, geez, you know, I'm a good player. This is going to be easy for me. Like, I'll be back on another final table. You're going to be like bummed out and depressed for a while, but a lot of people might think, this is going to be easy for me. I'm going to be back like that. You know, did any of that go through your mind at all, or was it the opposite, or what were you thinking?
Yeah, of course. I'm sorry, it's the painful memory. It's screwing up my mind. I felt that I need to keep playing and get that bracelet because I came there for the bracelet and I didn't get it, so I was gonna keep playing till I do.
Right. So now we make it to 2014.
7 long years later.
7 long years later, you're coming to the final table. And I mean, are you starting to think like, you know, a lot of times sports athletes and people, they get interviewed, it's like, you know, one game at a time, and I'm not thinking about the championship, I'm only thinking about this game or this hand. But are you thinking like, wow, I'd love to win this bracelet, or
well, I actually think the way you said it, that's the right way to think about things, not just poker, but all things in life. Just take it one step at a time, one hand at a time. But me personally, I'm all or nothing type of personality. So at this final table, I didn't even know how much second, third, fourth place paid. I just knew how much first was, and
you're thinking bracelet, like I'm trying to win.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a spot in the tournament where you're thinking, I got a pretty good shot, like I'm not trying to be thinking solely winning, I am kind of playing hand by hand, but wow, this is kind of going my way?
Yeah, there was a very big hand versus Josh Ivey.
Very well known.
Very well known, great player. Yes, he's been in the business for a while, and he had a lot of success. We were four-handed. He was the chip leader by a large margin, and I also had a big stack. He opened under the gun, aka cutoff, four-handed, with pocket tens.
Okay. And
I had aces in the big blind.
Oh.
I 3-bet big. He called. Flop came queen 10-7 with 2 hearts.
Uh-oh. You had a heart or no?
No heart.
Okay.
I had a red ace, but no heart. Which
is only 24-1 anyway, runner for hearts. You know, so it's, I mean, it's nice to have, but I feel like it's a little overvalued, but you know, it's nice to have it, just in case.
Every little bit helps.
Yeah.
So I c-bet, and he raised me a smallish amount, and the pot was really big, and I guess it was a borderline decision.
Are you kind of a little like, he just raised me a small amount? Is there any alarm bells going on? Like, why is he raising me small? Or is this normal play for him? You think he's just, it could even, you know, it could be perceived a lot of ways, you know, but what,
I was worried because most likely with a hand like king, queen, top pair, like he probably just calls my flop bet. So his range is probably like combo draws and sets. I mean, I guess he raises top pair some percentage of the time, but I didn't like the raise.
Right.
But I had a pretty big hand. There was one short stack at the four-handed, so I mean, I kind of took into consideration. You're supposed to take it. You're supposed to take that into big consideration because of ICM, the money jumps.
And the money jump's huge to third in any tournament. You know, usually, you know, first, second, thirds where the real money is. You know, I mean, typically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just decided to go with it, and he turned over pocket tens. I was dead, and I was just, you know,
Kind of.
I had ace of club, ace of diamonds. I was thinking, come on, ace of spades.
Right.
And right on the turn, ace of spades came.
No waiting.
No waiting. And now he was dead. So, I mean, in all honesty, Josh should have won the tournament, but
Right.
through running great,
Sure.
that hand gave me the chip lead, and I never relinquished it.
It's a funny thing, you know, like a spot like that for me. You know, as it turns out, he was ahead in one spot. You know, and I want to give him full credit. There's no part of me trying to say anything negative, but it just in my head, you know, and I'm a poker player too. I had pocket aces. You know, I had the best hand pre-flop. You know, so like you kind of re-sucked out. But you know, he was ahead in one spot. It was a key spot because you know on the turn where a lot of action was. But you know, I mean, you kind of took it back on the turn and it held up for the river. So it was just the way it works out. How many chips was he left with after the hand?
He was left with still like a decent amount of chips. I got the rest of them with a funny hand. I opened 5 deuce of hearts on the button.
Okay. This is four-handed still?
Yes.
Okay.
He called in the small blind, and I guess the big blind called as well. Flop came either ace 10-7 or ace 9-7 with 2 hearts. He got checked to me, and most of the time, I don't know, I like to bet my draws, but I decided to check, sort of get check raised, and you know.
You were doing it to check raise?
No, I was last to act. I didn't want to get check raised and,
I gotcha.
and
Okay.
you know, put
Sorry.
myself in a bad
You're
spot.
on the button. Okay.
So I check. So if it was ace 10-7, the turn came 9 of hearts. He bet out 40,000 with, and he had 400K total. So he had a decent amount left. But he just went from a monster chip leader to a shorter stack.
Right.
So I felt that he had steam coming out of his ears,
Sure.
and he wants to either get back in the game or get knocked out. So I felt that if he has anything half decent, he's going to call a shove, which is a pretty big shove at this point. He only invested 10% of his stack. You know, he still has a lot of chips left in relation to the blinds. So I just shipped it, and he ended up calling with ace-7 for 2 pair.
Wow.
Which is a strong hand, but
Huge hand, really. You know, I mean,
but once again,
right?
in the situation, I think if he had a cool head, he could find the fold there.
Yeah.
But it just I know the mentality when you know you lose a huge chunk of your stack.
Sometimes you're the captain of the steamboat. You know, like I mean, you lose a huge
I've
hand
been there
like that.
a lot of times.
I mean, look, I make a lot of thin calls where I think the guy's like steaming up after a couple bad hands, and like the bluffs start coming out. You know what I mean?
course.
That's what people do, and it's amazing. Like someone like Josh, whether he was or not, because ace-7, the 2 pair is a huge hand. But even the great players, like whether he did or not that hand, they still steam up. You know, it's like the hardest thing in the world. You know, when you're kind of running a little bad or getting a little unlucky, to still play great poker. You know, if he had been winning, like you said, probably could have found a fold there, or maybe thought it out a little bit. You know, perhaps. So I would definitely agree with you there.
I think Harrington said it best in his book. They get to a point where they don't think they have a best hand; they want to have a best hand, and
I like it.
I like it too.
I like it. So get us a little bit closer. You get down to heads up. Give me an interesting spot, interesting hand, something that happens there that we can share.
I wasn't happy with my heads-up opponent because he's a great player. He won the PCA main event in 2013. He had a lot of deep runs, huge cashes, so he knows exactly what he's doing. He plays well. You know, I'd much rather have somebody weaker so I could just take it.
Let me even just chime in here. This is a good spot for Ivy League, our training site. You know, a lot of people buy into tournaments, but it sure seems like yeah, sometimes you run good and things fall your way, but man, it usually gets down to like a lot of the good players left. Sometimes one iffy player, maybe 2 or something, but a lot of the good players like get there. You know, I mean, there's some luck, but it's a whole lot of skill. I mean, look at the players you were surrounded with four-handed. I mean, this is all like, you know, I would call wizards, you know. I mean, just great players. You know what I mean? And what a kind of a tough break to get heads up versus a guy like that.
Of course. I mean, skill definitely plays a big part. And cream usually rises to the top, so a lot of these events, you do face tough opposition. But the good thing is, I mean, this one I won was a 1,500 buy-in, which is like a relatively low buy-in for the series itself. I mean, they have $1 million event.
Sure.
So in events like this, a lot of these events get 3,000–4,000 players, and the percentage of bad players to good players is probably 80% bad, 20% good. So a lot of times you end up in a spot where where good players are just so outnumbered, where you end up at a final table where pretty much everybody's bad, and then it's just free money because you're playing for huge money and they're making mistakes, and every mistake they make is money in your pocket.
Did you know? Just a little side note: did you play the Millionaire Maker, which had like almost 8,000 players for a single day record this year? Massive tournament, and I played. I actually did pretty well on that one. But like every table I had,
You cashed?
I came in 270.
It's pretty sick.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I had actually a lot of chips towards the end and just kind of ran
8,000
at it.
players, right?
There's 8,000 players. I had 200,000 chips when the average was 50.
Wow.
So I was kind of disappointed with the 278th, but still, you know, I outlasted a lot of people. It just didn't go my way at the end. I do wonder if I steamed up a little bit. I don't think so. I feel like I just had bad situations and a couple of bad beats, a couple spots. But anyway, every table I had was like a dream table where I felt like, you know, this is like really good for me because usually I'm going against guys like you or Josh or your heads-up opponent, and I feel like, you know, I'm overmatched. So anyway, so let's get back to your heads-up play. Tell me a little bit more, you know, what's happening there.
Once again, I ran really well. I turned up the gears, heads up. I became much more aggressive. I actually haven't played heads up in a while, so I had to, because the only place you can really play heads up is online, because in live casinos you don't really get, I mean,
Right.
you can't sit
Very
down.
rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to remember back in the days when I played the heads up, sit and goes, the way I played them.
Are you thinking now, you know, constantly raising buttons, or is there any like basic strategy you can share that might have been going through your mind?
I started 3-betting a lot because he was opening every button. So obviously, most of the time he's very weak. And by me 3-betting, first of all, he could fold pre-flop, and I'm taking control of a hand. So it becomes much easier to play.
And it's kind of a tough balance, right? Because now you're out of position, but you have the initiative. You know, you got the, you know.
Yeah, I mean, in No Limit Hold'em, the initiative is huge.
Right.
And plus, you're displaying strength by 3-betting in the first place, and then, you know, you just bet the flop, and most of the time he just doesn't have anything.
Did he 4-bet you a lot? Did he notice that, you know, you notice he's raising a lot of buttons. You start countering and re-raising, you know, and did he play back at you and 4-bet?
He
sometimes?
4-bet a couple of times, but he probably should have 4-bet more, because I mean, I looked down at the ace, I 3-bet, you know, so like most of the time I obviously couldn't stand the 4-bet. And I actually folded to, I think, every 4-bet that he made.
Wow.
But it's also difficult for him because he's out-chipped, and you know, like a 4-bet could basically mean the last hand that he's playing. So
Right. What are the chip stacks at this point again?
the structure was great. Like we were heads up, we were very deep stacked. I think like we were at one point like 80 big blinds deep.
Nice.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. Not beautiful for me. I want to be short as possible versus guys like you. You know? Flip a coin. Okay, so how about the final hand? Give me like the final hand. What happened, or, you know, the interesting hand that maybe was like, maybe not the final hand, but the one that you feel kind of wrapped up the tournament for you.
Well, I guess the final hand was the most memorable one.
I like it.
The blinds were 12K, 24K.
Okay.
He had about $1 million, and I had 3 million in change. He had the button, and he min raised to 50,000. I had King 8 offsuit in a big blind, which is a decent hand heads up. A king, you know, and it's a bit of an average king. So he made it 50K, I made 150K. He called. Flop came King 9 deuce, rainbow.
So you like the flop, obviously. You flop
Once
top
again,
pair.
heads up, yeah.
Yeah.
Top pair is the nuts.
I mean, yeah.
I see bet 175,000. He called me.
Are you nervous? He calls?
Um,
What was the flop again? It was king
9 deuce.
at Rainbow?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's really no
no
real draw out there. I mean,
there's no real draw. I mean, I'm a little bit nervous in the sense that if he has a king, he really can't have a worse king than mine. So if he has a king,
can't have a worse king.
he can't,
Yeah.
because he's not gonna call my 3-bet with king 3, you know?
Right. King whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if he has a king, I'm in trouble. But I mean, I'm mostly happy with the flop. So I see bet 175,000. He calls. Turn came like a 5, a brick basically.
So you really like the turn card,
Yes.
right?
And the way the heads up dynamic went, basically when I 3-bet a lot, then c-bet a lot, and oftentimes when I didn't have anything, I checked, he bet, and I folded. So I decided to play it weak, and I checked the turn. He bet 225,000 or something in that neighborhood.
So this is a funny spot, right? Because you're like, oh, my plan's working, but is it not working? Maybe he has it, right? Like maybe you're kind of not sure.
It was more to trap. It wasn't really. I mean, I wasn't really concerned, you know.
Okay, so you're doing it completely to trap, and you're just pretty happy
Yes.
that he's being aggressive and representing his hand and continuing with the lead. And
Yes.
betting.
And I mean, since my top pair is a king, there's really no overcards that could come except an ace.
And you're not really worried at the draw because there isn't one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you know, and if he has like a middle pair, he only has 5 outs. So like, I feel I'm in good shape.
And at this point, do you think he's probably has a 9? You know, he might have, ace 9 or,
Yeah.
a 10-9 suited or something?
Exactly.
Okay.
Or maybe something like a gut shot, like a queen jack, jack 10 type of hit.
Right.
So
Which could very well be, right?
or he could just have nothing and he could float the flop and just
Right.
take it away on the turn.
Right.
So I check for him to take it away on the turn. He bets 225K or something, and I call. River comes out of a brick, like a 3 or something. I check again, and he has 600K left, and he ships it in. I actually took my time. It probably took like maybe 45 seconds.
I mean, you kind of should take your time, right? This is heads up for a bracelet. You make this call and you're right, you win.
Yes.
I mean, it's not like let's just.
And if
you're
I'm
playing,
wrong-
you're playing on a home game. Well, it's an easy call or not or whatever. Everything's going to plan. You played it this way to have him be aggressive. It goes to plan. But now maybe you got to step back. Like, hey, am I making a mistake? Am I leveling
Yes.
myself? Like, should I call off here? 600,000. He gets back in this.
Exactly.
Let me think this through a little bit.
I mean, if I lose the hand, then we're back even the chips. I lose the momentum, and it could be big difference.
I just picture myself at first, and I'm like, oh, like what just happened? Am I, making,
I mean, but I kind of checked for him to bet, but I was hoping that either he's going to check behind if he has like,
and then be real short.
yeah,
Yeah.
or he's going to bet like 300K on the bluff. Like I felt maybe he's not going to want to risk his whole stack bluffing.
So like a value bet bluff type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I took 45 seconds or so.
And what in the 45 seconds are you thinking? Like, what hands have me beat? Are you reviewing the hand street by street?
Basically, my concern was that he doesn't have a bigger king, and because for him to go all in this spot, he never has a hand. He never has a value hand that I beat. So I don't think he takes like a 9-8 and just ships it in on the river for value.
Right.
He either checks or he makes a small bet. So
he probably would check at that point. You would think.
He probably
right?
would.
He's got to be worried you have some type of king or a bigger 9.
Bigger 9, which I would never fold.
Right.
So
at that point, with your chip stack too, you're not going to fold ace 9 at that point, or.
yeah. So basically, I only beat a bluff. But the way I played the hand,
Right.
I played it for him. Like I opened the door for him to fire away. So
Come on in, right? All right. So you make the call. What does he say?
he says, "Good call,"
Good call.
and that's music to my ears.
Oh wow.
He turns over queen jack. I thought he had jack 10. He turned over queen jack.
Wow. Awesome, man. Awesome.
And
Let me ask you, you make it to the bracelet ceremony, right? I feel like I'd be a crying idiot up there. You know, they're playing the national anthem, they're playing your national anthem, and do you get emotional up there, like at all, or?
I only cry when the fish leaves the table.
I love it. I love it. So you just really enjoyed it, had a great time. You
Absolutely. I mean, nice. It was a. I mean, it was a very special moment because I've been chasing the gold bracelet for years and years and years, and I had so many close calls.
You've played great, and you know you got it. How about showing them the bracelet?
The thing of beauty.
Yeah, show them a thing of beauty here, huh? Beautiful.
This is what you guys can get if you study at Ivy League.